For literally less than $500, you can build a pure performance gaming PC like this, and I'm gonna make this as easy to copy as possible. Not only will I show you the full component list with the reasonings for every part and benchmark the heck out of this PC, which by the way, it can put up some really good numbers. We kind of got reverse scammed on this GPU. I still can't believe it. We're gonna talk all about it. But also linked down in the description is a full step-by-step PC building video for this build, a full benchmarking video with way more games than we'll look at today, and of course, the totally free cheat sheet. Inside that link shows you all the juicy information if you're trying to copy this build, which may not be super interesting in a video like this, but it's vital information when you're trying to copy it. It's got further part explanations and even alternative parts in case you can't find what I'm using. It's got the BIOS settings and even a cable management guide. Let's start with the top of the parts list with the CPU, and for a $500 build, you got two main options in my opinion. You can either go with a Ryzen 5 5500 if you prefer to shop from places like Amazon or Newegg, or if you're willing to go to AliExpress, you can get an even better 5600. This 5600 with 6 cores and 12 threads is still the peak of pure performance budget gaming right now, and on AliExpress, it's less than 75 bucks most of the time. Not only will this pair really well with our 1080p GPU choice, but it'll also work great with most 1440p GPUs if you decide to upgrade now or later on down the line. It also allows us to be on the affordable AM4 platform, and speaking of which, the motherboard I'm going to use is the Asus Prime B450M-A2. For whatever reason, the budget AM4 motherboard market is pretty much as bad as the GPU market right now, but this option continues to be one of the only ones available. This cost me $70 off eBay, but it's a brand new board that's just being sold from Best Buy through eBay. Stores like Best Buy and even Newegg will sometimes list their inventory over on eBay, so that's all this is. It's a totally legit brand new option for 70 bucks, which you cannot beat right now in early 2025. The only thing I don't like about it is the lack of built-in Wi-Fi, but beggars can't be choosers in this market, and we can fix that problem with a $6 dongle over on AliExpress or even Amazon. Next up, we have the RAM, and today I'm going with the G-Skill Ripjaws 5 2x16GB DDR4 kit clocked at 3200 MHz with a CL rating of 16. I've been explaining this for a few weeks now, but 32GB is just now the sweet spot for DDR4, and I don't see myself going back to 16 gigs anytime soon unless it's a sub $400-ish build. These 32GB kits with good specs are now only like $15 more expensive than the 16s, and that kind of price is definitely going to be worth it. If you can't find this exact kit, which is linked down in the description along with every other part I'm talking about, then just search on PC Part Picker for any 2x16GB DDR4 kit clocked at 3200 MHz and CL16. I'll of course also have my top alternative picks down in that cheat sheet as well. Moving on, next up we have the SSD, and this is yet another Team Group MP33 1TB drive. At this point in time, the MP33, the Clev Crass, or the Silicon Power A60 could all be rocking the lowest price for the NVMe Gen 3 drives, and for ultra budget builds like this, I just get whatever has the best deal. This MP33 is not sporting crazy fast read and write speeds, but for a budget gaming PC like this, it's perfectly fast enough, and unless if you're video editing, most people probably won't even notice a difference. After that, we have the power supply, and this is another one that I use quite often in these videos, which is the MSI Mag A550BN. This is a 550 watt non-modular unit, which is almost always sitting right at 50 bucks, but more importantly, it's rated tier C on the PSU tier list. And speaking of which, there's a brand new tier list if you didn't already see my videos. This was created by my friend SPL, and it's officially replacing the Cultist list, which we've known and loved for years, but unfortunately, it's just been too outdated. This new list not only shows literally hundreds of more models, including the newer ATX 3.0 and 3.1 stuff, but it also includes all of the information about the tiering system. If you ever wanted to nerd out about what makes a power supply a good or a bad unit, I'd highly recommend checking that out, and it's actually hosted on the zttbuildhelp.com website, which is always linked down in the description. What's also linked down there is this case, and oh my goodness, I think I accidentally found the new meta for budget builds. This is the DIY PC ARGB R1BK, and to be honest, this wasn't really accidental. I'm always trying to find the new case listings, which are usually listed on Newegg, and this one caught my attention. This is a micro ATX all black unit with 4 pre-installed ARGB fans for for just $53. I just checked while writing the script for this video, which is about a week after building and 2 weeks after ordering, and it's still there, actually for $52, which is even better. Yesterday, I literally just ordered 20 more of these for an upcoming limited drop on zttbuilds.com. It's got a Versa H18 kind of looking front panel and a larger than normal PSU basement, but overall, I can't really complain about this design. The kicker is that there's even a USB-C port up at the front, but that's of course one of the downsides of a super budget B450 motherboard like this, so we can't even use it. Now, one thing I will say is that the front panel of this case does make it very tough to see the front ARGB fans, which probably won't affect most of you, and definitely not as much as it did me and my videographer. As you start to rotate the case, you can't see the color of those RGB fans, and this happens way quicker with this case compared to everything else. The ARGB fans are perfectly fine and bright, but it's just this plastic front grille that makes it really tough to see the colors from any angle other than straight on. And speaking of those fans, the CPU cooler I bought to try to match them is the Vitro V5. This sub $30 cooler has been around for the better part of a decade, and it's always rock solid, but they actually just did a refresh, I think, and it's looking pretty nice. This does have an ARGB port that you can easily daisy chain into the case fans, and then all 5 fans can be controlled from the one button on the front of the case. With all black parts, you can honestly go with any color combination that you want to, but I like how this light blue and purple matches with the ARGBs on this GPU. And speaking of which, for the last component in this $500 pure performance build guide, here's where things get a bit weird, but don't worry, I'll fully explain. This is apparently an Asus RX 5600 XT dual, and I copped this over on eBay used for $125. For a $500 gaming PC, you're gonna be sitting with anywhere from $100 to $130 for the GPU, and at the time of filming, I think this is probably the very best option. If you head over to zttbuildhelp.com and click on those 1080p ultra comparison charts, you'll see that some of the other competition is the RTX 2060 and also the GTX 1660 Super, which is the one I was heavily considering. You can find those supers for around $100 on eBay fairly easily, but the 5600 XT consistently beats it in performance. The RTX 2060 is also a solid option, but that card hovers closer to $150, and again, the 5600 XT usually beats it. The only other GPU that I really consider to replace the 5600 XT is one of my all-time favorites, the 5700 XT, but unfortunately, that's just become pretty difficult to grab in this price range. Now, if you can find one for about $130, then I absolutely recommend going for it, but realistically, you're probably gonna have to settle for the 5600 XT. Now, where the real weirdness starts is that we found out that the previous owner, or at least one of the previous owners of this 5600 XT, actually swapped the cooling assembly, and underneath the hood is in fact a much better 5700 XT. I talk all about how you can sometimes get scammed whenever you buy a used graphics card or any component, but every now and then you'll actually get reverse scammed. We originally thought that someone BIOS flashed this from a 5600 XT to a 5700 XT, but Sam physically tore down the GPU and discovered that the PCB does in fact say 5700 XT, and there's also 8 gigabytes of VRAM. The thing that threw us off, and probably the person that sold it to us, was that the sticker on the cooling assembly says 5600 XT. This GPU is working flawlessly though as a 5700 XT, and all of the software like GPU-Z and 3D Mark confirms it's a 5700 XT. We just have a 5600 XT cooler on here, which isn't a big deal. During gaming, the temperatures of it were actually really nice. So yeah, after totaling up our total build price, I'm actually at right under the $500 target. This of course will have some fluctuation if you try to copy this, depending on where you buy the CPU, what kind of motherboard and GPU deal you can find, and all that. And just as a reminder, if you do need a step-by-step PC building video of this PC, we condensed down the Twitch live stream of me building it into only the actual building steps. There's no donation messages, ad breaks, or beer reviews in this shorter version. It's nothing but me building this PC. But now let's check out some benchmarks, and first we'll start with Marvel Rivals, and here in 1080p with high settings, we've got an average FPS of 95, which you'll love to see. Next up we have Fortnite, because everyone still wants to see this result, and in 1080p with pro settings, we'd definitely be taking advantage of a competitive gaming monitor with an average FPS of 235. And finally, here's Delta Force, and we put the settings back up to 1080p high and got 116 FPS. Here's the rest of the games that we tested, and I actually wasn't expecting this, but yeah, these are basically all RX 5700 XT numbers, with most of the games running very well at 1080p high level range. And yeah, just as a final reminder, if you want to see those longer benchmarking clips and a ton of extra games, we just uploaded a dedicated video for that over on the ZTT Extras channel. And real quickly, let's look at the cooling, because that's usually where we have to worry about not just older hardware, but especially a GPU that had its fan and cooling assembly replaced. First up, we fired up Cinebench 2024, and the GPU stress test only peaked at 66 degrees. Crazy. Here's Black Myth Wukong running its built-in benchmarking tool, which does indeed keep that GPU pressed around 95 to 100% utilization, and that GPU GPU is still barely even touching 65 degrees.
So yeah, I don't know what we did to deserve this lucky of a free GPU upgrade, but I'm pretty sure we just got extremely lucky on this one. If you're following this at home, then again, you probably have to shoot for a 5600 XT, but if you do want to pay just a few bucks more for a 5700 XT, then you'll get the same results that I did.
But yeah, hopefully you enjoyed this $500 pure performance gaming PC build guide, and that cheat sheet in the description brought value to you. If you want to check out my other somewhat recent method of building a $500-ish gaming PC, then that video is on the screen now.